Welcome to Kathryn Raaker's World. Innovation, culture, adventure, fashion and health, artists, destinations, traditions. This is Kathryn Raaker's World.
Hi, this is Kathryn Raaker of Kathryn Raaker's World, our syndicated TV show, and Let's Just Talk, our syndicated radio show. My guest today, and this is the second or third time he's been on our show, is Sam Anthony, President and CEO of YourNews.com. And his motto is get real news from real people and get your news published. On today's show, we are going to talk about how he created YourNews.com and where the company is today. So welcome to our show, Sam. I mean, I feel like I sell for you more than anything else in the world because I love your news. Why? Because I publish almost every day on YourNews, right?
Well, yes, you do. Kathryn, thank you for having me on the show. I am very excited to be here. And I've got a lot to talk about.
Okay, so let's talk about it. What's going on since we talked last?
Well, you know, we've been advancing something which, you know, I will share with the audience where, you know, and Kathryn, do you want me to tell the audience what exactly Your News is as a refresher?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I will. So what we do is we're a platform, we're a daily news website, kind of like any local newspaper, but I'm in every city in the United States. So what we have is massive scale. Now, we all know that the legacy media is going the way of the dinosaur. If you don't know it, I'm going to tell you it is. Okay. And it's not because of people my age, right? Because I grew up watching cable news. I grew up reading a newspaper. I grew up reading magazines. It's the younger generation doesn't watch TV. At least they don't watch network TV. They don't listen to radio on the dial. They certainly don't read magazines or newspapers. Everything they get is on demand. So what's going to happen is going to be no different than what happened with the telegraph or with the or with the horse and buggy. There's always something that replaces something else. So what we do is the product that's ultimately going to become the next mainstream media. We're the local newspaper in every city in America. And remember this, there's still a demand for news. It's just how people consume it has changed. And what we've done is built a business around it. So the way our model works is we are when you log into the site, your provider's going to tell us where you live. So I know if you live in Chicago, right down to the zip code you live in. So once you're there, it's going to look like the Chicago Tribune, but on steroids. I'm in every city in America. We have the ability to publish content and localize it to any area by any subject, which means that I could take your kid's Little League game and put it in the sports section in Boca Raton, Florida, only for Boca residents, because that's the only people that are relevant, right? Whereas the high school football game, still sports news, but it's going to run broader to the county or to the market. And then obviously the Monday Night Football game, still sports news, but it's going to be distributed across all 70,000 zip codes or all the zip codes across the United States. So because of our scale, we allow the public to interact similar to Craigslist. Everybody knows Craigslist where you could post a classified. Well, with us, people create accounts and they post the content. The content comes back in the dashboard as pending review. And then once approved, they get email notification with a direct link to their story. And what everybody does is they share it on their social media pages like you do, right? It's not because they like me. It's self-serving, right? So the example would be if somebody posts their kid's Little League game, Kathryn, there's a 100% chance grandma and grandpa are going to see that story because it's going on Facebook. That's just how it works. So like all news outlets, we're an aggregator of information, meaning that people that have news are sending press releases to the media. I'm the media in every market. And what we're doing is taking all the content that flows out of the US, bringing it under one umbrella, and creating one uniform media. The second component to this, which is the exciting part, is everybody has seen all the layoffs that the mainstream media has been having over the last few years, right? It's just horrible. Now, to give you an idea, there are on LinkedIn Navigator, if you do a search for freelance journalists in the United States, there's just under 500,000 people that are calling themselves freelance. I think the number was like 460, or highest I've seen it was 480. These are, to me, freelance journalists for the most part means they're looking to make money, right? Why are you doing things freelance? Many of them were part of the downsizing of the legacy media. So what our product does is it puts them back to work, okay? Where they can now become a monetized contributor on our site. Now, just like I'm sure everybody's familiar with YouTube and people are monetized on YouTube. So with us, we monetize news reporters and audio and video content creators. And what they do is they could submit a story. It could be the city council meeting in Boise, Idaho. It could be the high school football game. It could be the bank robbery, the car crash, doesn't matter. We publish that content to the subject and geography it's relevant to. What they do is they share that story to their followers on their social media pages, and their followers come to me to consume their content, and we sell all the ads and they get a percentage of the ad revenue. Basically, the closest thing to me is Facebook, not because we're in the same business, but they sell ads around user generated content, and so do we. It's just the content's different. So this model would be Facebook meets YouTube, would be the best description for monetization.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go
Here's the
ahead.
question. You know, I do television. I send you my television shows, right? But if somebody had a whole area of content, like say, for instance, children's television programs that they wanted to have aired, would your site take that?
Well, so we're currently at a news format, and we don't have a children's site section or like a place for children's videos. Maybe there could be a story about a specific video that's coming out, right? Because there's everybody's seen The Lion King or something like that, right?
Right.
So, there could be an entertainment news where a new, children's book or children's video is coming out, but we don't have that particular category because we're more of a traditional newspaper, home and garden, food and wine,
Right.
health, sports, lifestyle, entertainment, that kind of stuff.
So it wouldn't be considered entertainment.
It could be considered entertainment, but I would think that that's more of a like movies, right? Somebody's watching a movie, so I'm sure they have a place where people could watch these things, but we certainly could be a place that promotes that.
Okay. Well, that was a question yesterday. So anyhow, because I've been on other television networks, and this television network is not in existence anymore. And this gentleman has a lot of content for children. So that was the question. So
Okay.
that answers it. So, but with what I do, I create content for a cooking show. And the nice thing about it is that I put it up on your website, and I was on the front page, which really made me feel good.
Doesn't it? So yes, so for the audience, Kathryn does a cooking show. We have a food and wine section. So that content would go in our food and wine section. Then she could interview somebody that is the CEO of some, business that manufactures paper
Celery.
towels.
Like
Right.
paper towels,
Okay.
right.
So that would go in our business section.
Right.
Right. And if you
Right.
were doing something about a health product, it would go in health.
Right.
And if you were doing something sports related, it goes in sports, right? That's
Right.
just how it works. It's whatever the content is relevant to.
It could be technology, it could be religion, it could be anything. The nice thing about your site, Sam, is that if I have a press release, or if I have a radio show, or if I have a TV show, I can upload it to it. And it's simple, correct?
It's very simple. It's very people upload this without ever talking to us. They're putting stuff in all the time. There's content in there right now ready to be approved. I mean, it's all day long. So remember, we're an aggregator. Okay,
That's
that's what we do. Just like every independent news, well, of course, there isn't any more independent news outlets, but they're all owned by 6 companies. But just like every news outlet, where everybody sends their stuff to them. So they aggregate it all locally. We're an aggregator of the same content. We just have the ability to print it all because it costs me nothing and we can organize it by subject and geography. So remember this, I am a social media news site. The magic formula to any social site is content equals readership. Once you've aggregated all the content, the game's over. You got all the readers. Make sense?
Now, don't you have international, or will you have international?
Well, we have world news, and I've been getting a lot of world news coming in. Matter of fact, I've been getting world news from news outlets that are distributing their content on my platform. Can you believe that?
Yes, I believe it.
I was shocked. Two news outlets asked if they could submit their content to me yesterday.
Well, let me say this. When I did
Mhm.
that program on the Olympics, I put it up. And that was the beginning of the Olympics,
Mhm.
and I wanted to get it up there quickly so that people could see it. And that's international news when you think about it, right?
Right. Well, that is, but it would be sports related too.
Sports related too. So, but I can understand that. There's a lot of news outlets that want to get it up like that and get it out there. And you're giving them a platform to put it.
That's it. That's all it is. Like I said, we're like Facebook for news with a YouTube monetization component, but the monetization only goes to the people that are doing this for a living. They're trying to make money with it.
Right.
So we're like, what I see is at full scale, remember, we could serve an ad to one zip code. So if you ever looked at a news website and you went to any page, doesn't matter if it's sports, business, politics, however many ads they could put on their business page, we can do in one zip code.
So what is your goal in what you're doing today, and where are you going with it?
So, like all tech platforms,
Mhm.
none of them are just US based.
That's right.
Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, LinkedIn, Uber, Netflix, they're all global. Okay. Everything's global. And the reason is on the internet, the barrier to entry to go into another country is nothing, right?
Right.
It's nothing. So this is what my prediction is. I certainly don't have a crystal ball, but it's a high probability it'll happen because I'm going to do it. Okay. So I'm not going to stop till it's done. The future of news, there's going to be a day for everybody to hear where there won't be Fox or CNN or ABC or NBC. If you don't believe that, the average age of the cable news viewer is 70 years old. All you have to do is figure out what's the average age that a person lives. Okay. And that'll give you about how many years they got. Okay. So it's all going to be gone. What's going to eventually replace it will be a global media giant by zip code. When you log in, it doesn't matter what country, it'll grab your IP and it'll say this person lives in Istanbul, okay, or in Phoenix or in Chicago. It doesn't matter. And it'll grab your IP address, it'll take you to that city. It'll be global in scope. It'll have a social component where the public can interact and actually share in the narrative and post their own news, views, opinions, and classifieds locally. And it'll have a monetization model for Kathryn. Are you ready for this? And I can back it up. There's over on LinkedIn alone, the people that are advertising, there's over 2 million freelance journalists across the globe, which means you're looking at almost a couple million people that have lost their jobs.
Yeah, I
And a self-service ad platform where people can log in and buy their own ad targeted around the content that's relevant to their product. This is nothing new. It's Facebook, right? I mean, that's what it is, but it's just wrapped around news content versus your kids' baby pictures or what you had for dinner.
Right. And that's, I think, the thing that excited me about YourNews is that I could do it so easily and so fast
I know, isn't
to
it
get it
easy?
out. Yes.
I know.
It's too easy, I think.
The copy paste. That's it. Boom,
Right.
boom, and
And
submit.
I love cutting and pasting, so it's no problem,
I
And
hear you.
I finish it, we get it edited, I put it on to most of my stuff is television, right? So we get it, And then it's easy. And changing some things and doing different logos and showing a featured image. And a lot of people have a little problem with that. But now I'm getting better and better at it.
Oh yeah, you do it perfect. I've seen them come in. I'm like, oh, Kathryn's already got another show up.
Teaching people how to do it. That's a fun part. But when they go up on your site, it's exciting. And then I take them down to the bottom of the, well, first I show them where I am and everything. If I'm up there where I am, usually I take them to the very bottom of the page and I say, okay, now let's learn how to do this. This is simple. Go into your login and do a profile. And then I go from there. And I'm teaching right now an 83-year-old how to do it.
Really?
I was a professor of a university. And I'm going like, here I am teaching you how to do this. But, if they want to really market themselves or market their product or do whatever, this is the easiest way to do it.
Yeah,
Easy.
sir. It's I hear that all the time. I remember somebody had sent me a press release and I sent them an email back saying, thank you for sending this to me, Mary or whatever her name was. I said, we have a submission form on the site that's easy to use. Just click the submit your news button and create an account and follow the instructions. Not 90 seconds later, that article was submitted. I'm like, oh my God, was that fast? Okay, so I respond, I go, wow, that was quick. She goes, it was easy.
That's it.
That was it.
It's keep it simple. You remember in advertising, it's keep it simple, stupid.
Exactly.
Don't make it a million words, right? But that's what I love about your news. I love the way it looks on your pages. And you can preview it before you send it. You submit it. And see if you made any mistakes, like I do sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So, but the cool thing is that you've got the support of YourNews if you have a problem. And I think that's important. I mean, I always believed in customer service, and I feel like you've got that winning edge.
Well, certainly for now, as this thing really gets massive, it's, there's got to be customer service in there because when you submit a story, the reason you can't get back into it is because we want to have control over the content to make sure somebody doesn't put something bad in there and then right, so we have to see everything before it goes live just to make sure nobody's doing anything bad. But once it's published, you can't get back into it, and you're going to, unless we set it to drafts. When we set it to drafts, then you could get back into it, but then you're resubmitting it again, which means somebody looks at it again to make sure nothing's done. Or this way, it's just basically a way to police the product to make sure nobody's putting anything out there that's not good.
Well, and that's the one thing that I think you need to do. And we've seen this in the news lately where they want to change it totally. And you've already seen it on video, you've seen it in the press, you've seen it everywhere, and you go, how can they do this? People have already seen it,
Yeah, you're talking about changing the narrative,
Yes.
yeah. So in our case, like the world we live in today, there was a time in the 80s where there was over 400 or 450 independent news outlets. You like in your market, somebody owned the Fox or CBS affiliate, and somebody in my market did. Today, there's 6 companies that own them all. All right. So basically, all the narrative is being pushed down from, from 6 entities that are controlling the narrative. And it almost seems like they're talking to each other. Okay. They're all saying the same thing.
Right.
Everywhere. And you've seen the video with Sinclair Broadcasting where you had all the TVs where they're all saying the same thing. It's the same. And so obviously they're all Sinclair stations. Somebody at Sinclair had sent that script and they were just reading it off a teleprompter, but they're controlling the narrative. And that's just the way it is. So right now we live in a world that has centralized news. It's basically whatever the billionaires decide you want to know, they're controlling that narrative. So the good news is what our product does is it completely decentralizes the news business and it democratizes it because it actually puts the power of the press back in the hands of the people where it belongs. And the journalists who are writing stories, we don't censor them. And, and I talk to a lot of journalists and a lot of them, like you remember the Amy Robach story with with Epstein, where they were going to air it and then it was pulled back. Okay. Well, why do you think that was? It was because somebody called and told them, don't run the story. Now, who it was, I don't know, but apparently it was some high level official that probably goes to the island all the time that
That's
just
probably
didn't want,
right.
yeah, I mean, just form your own conclusion. I mean, why else would you not want this guy going to jail? It was probably a great party house for you. In any event, it happens all the time. I talked to a journalist the other day out of Sarasota. So she's investigative. She goes out and she'll uncover stories and she'll make sure they're factual and everything, every I's dotted and T's crossed. But when she brings it back to the newspaper, if it's a friend to somebody there, or they just don't want the problem because maybe it's a moneymaker, they just don't run the story.
Right.
Okay.
So
So,
where are we now and where are we going before I have to end the show
oh,
today?
sure. So what we're doing now is we decided, rather than make the same mistakes that the legacy media did and be controlled by, billionaires and, six hedge funds,
Mhm.
or, six corporations, we decided to do a capital raise to start scaling this at an exponential pace. But rather than do it through the high net worth and the institutional players, we decided to do something called an equity crowd fund. Kathryn. And if you, for those of you who don't know what that is, years ago, like everything goes through Silicon Valley, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Uber, Amazon, every one of them came from Silicon Valley. And the way it works is Silicon Valley finds the opportunities. They
Mhm.
bring in the management team and they pour hundreds of millions of dollars into these things to build them and scale them quickly. Then
Mhm.
they sell them to you. So the reason that you've never got involved in one of these is because you have to be an accredited investor, number one. Number two, you have to make you have to be accredited, but you have to make at least a couple $100,000 a year or have a net worth of $1 million. But even that's not going to get into their game. These guys have serious money players that are buying into these things.
Mhm.
Well, they have something called an equity crowd fund. And the way it works is you don't have to be an accredited investor. You can actually watch a video. It's where you actually buy stock in the company. So you watch a video, and then if you like what you hear, you can actually click the link and make an investment. So
Mhm.
now what happens is, and this is what I always tell people, our whole thing is we're a news organization that's by the people for the people.
Mhm.
So the whole point of that is if we're a news organization that's supposed to be for the people, shouldn't the people own the product?
That's right.
Right? Or should I just go to the high net worth individuals and be done with it? So I would rather, we're doing a $5 million raise. I'm I would rather have 10,000 people give me $500 or 5,000 people give me, $1,000 to equal the 5 million than go to one or two institutional players and get the money because
Mhm.
now you're beholden to them. So
Mhm.
we're doing an equity crowd fund, which
Mhm.
is going to be starting. And I will give you the link, Kathryn, to where people can go. And
Mhm.
if you watch a video, the video is like 3 minutes long. If you like what you hear, you can go through where it says invest and start reading about the company. If you want to make an investment, here's the best part. You could spend as little as $200 and everywhere in between. It doesn't matter. So everybody can actually own a stake in this. And then we have a plan, and it could be altered. But right now, we plan on going public 12 months after the offering. It could be faster or it could be a little bit more. Obviously, it's going to depend on market conditions, number one. Number two, it may be faster simply because the person that I hired to do this has some institute or some investment banks that may want to participate with this once we get it public. So,
So once you met, let me understand this. Once you
sure.
raise the 5 million,
Hmm.
then you go back to that person and that's working with you, the CFO
Hmm.
or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And that person actually takes it to a couple of the banks she has or whatever, if it's a he or she, right?
Not quite. So
Not
the way
quite.
it's going to work is we're going to do it via direct listing. He's taken 17 of these companies public, like mine. So we're going to
Okay.
do a direct listing, which you can do, which means you're bypassing the broker dealers. But once you become public, it's the marketplace that's going to dictate the price of your stock. So
Okay.
it's going to be a direct listing, but we may wait 12 months and do another offering before that at a much higher valuation. Or, like he said, depending on, he has investment banks that he works with, and if they may want to participate in this, in which case we would do a public offering earlier and then bring in the investment banks with the investment capital. So the plan is within 12 months, there'll be a liquidity event in this. That's our plan at the moment.
Okay. Well, that's so interesting. I can't wait for it to
Me
happen.
too. Me too.
Okay.
It's been a
And
long time coming.
And I want to thank you. You will be coming on our show quite often during the month. So we want to thank you for joining us and telling about this exciting investment and also what you're doing. So everyone go to yournews.com to get the best news possible. Thank you for joining me today. I always end my shows that way because I think it's such a great opportunity for people to have the right news. And I want to thank you for your mission and what you're doing to change the world. And that's what we need.
Couldn't
So,
agree with you more. You're welcome. Yes.
and so, do you want me to give it again, your website, or you going to give it?
So I will tell everybody the website is yournews.com. When you log in at the top of the page, it should show your city name. If you block it or if it's wrong, maybe your provider gave us a town next to you, just hit change your location and put in your zip code. It'll take you there. If you decide you want to take a look at our equity crowdfund, which will display the link, the company is called Nico Ventures Inc. That is the holding company that owns Your News, and there's a reason why we're doing this. It's you know how Fox News is owned by News Corp? News Corp owns 160 other companies, and I'm not sure if that's exact, but I think it's a lot. You type in Google, how many companies does News Corp own? It's a lot. Well, our model is a roll-up model. And what I mean by a roll-up model is we have a horse racing section, we have a boxing section, we have a golf section, we have a soccer section, we have a home and garden section, we have a food and wine. So we got all these different categories. Do you know there's websites out there, Kathryn, that have specific verticals? Like if you went to Google and typed in horse racing news, there's just a ton of websites that do horse racing news. So the plan is to do a roll up where you acquire these other websites, and now that person we acquire becomes the editor in chief for the horse racing section. Then I could do it for the boxing section. Then I could do it for the home. So his website has a value of 2 times earnings. But if you acquire 20 of them, the whole is worth more than the parts. Make sense?
Yes.
So that's why we started a holding company just like News Corp. It's called Nico Ventures. And Nico Ventures, the word Nico, if you type in Nico definition in Google, means victory of the people.
Victory of the people. I love that. So I want to thank you again for joining me today, and we'll be talking to you in about a week or so. How about that?
Sounds perfect, Kathryn. Thanks so much for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
Thanks. And don't forget to go to Kathryn Raaker's World. Let's Just Talk and the Chef You and I. And of course, yournews.com to get all of the news.